gentlemen, and Happy New Year. Ronald Ray here, your boy with a cornbread accent. Last night, finally got to go out to see the Iron Claw movie. Of course, that movie is about the Von Erichs. Going to do a little short review on the movie, give you the good, the bad, and my final verdict of the movie. But before I get started, go ahead and smash that like button. Leave a comment. Have you folks went to see the movie yet? Let me know in the comments on what you think of the movie. And of course, be a champ and hit that subscribe button. Like I said, seen the movie last night, The Iron Claw. This, of course, is about the Von Erich family from Denton, Texas. Mainly focused on Kevin Von Erich, but more on my little theories and stuff like that about the movie. The movie is directed by Sean Durkin, and it was released or distributed by A24 Films. They're kind of one of those companies now who are giving young up and coming filmmakers a an opportunity to uh, get widely noticed. So they're doing a pretty good job. Usually, movies come out of there. I say about 70% are usually pretty good. Sean Durkin, haven't really seen much of him. From my research about him, he does more drama films, and I would say this was definitely in his wheelhouse. The movie stars Zac Efron as Kevin Von Erich. Uh, of course, there was a movie I seen a few years ago called The Lucky One, and when I seen that movie, I was like, wait a minute, I recognize that guy. I mean, even though you just couldn't get away from High School Musical, and then when I looked at the movie and it said starred Zac Efron, and I was like, oh, the High School Musical guy. Very good movie from him. So when I had seen he was cast as in this dramatic film as Kevin Von Erich, even though he was built like Kerry Von Erich, did not really have a problem with it, especially after seeing the Lucky One. Also, he's done comedy movies like Baywatch and The Neighbors, which was pretty decent. Jeremy Allen White, he played Kerry Von Erich. Harris Dickinson played David Von Erich. Stanley Simmons played Mike Von Erich. Holt McCanley played Fritz Von Erich. Very good choice on this one. More on that also later. Uh, Maura Tierney, I believe I said that right, played Doris Von Erich. Lily James played Pam Atkinson, Pam Von Erich, Kevin Von Erich's wife, and that rounds out the cast of the movie. So, without no further ado, let's go ahead and get to the good about the movie. So, some of the good and positive things about the movie, like I said before, Efron playing Kevin Von Erich did a very good job in this movie. The critics that I watched, they did praise him, and I mean, they weren't lying about the praise he got from this movie. Well deserved. Did a very good job in this movie, and like I said before, Holt McCanley playing Fritz. If you look at him side by side, he grasped that role really well. So it was well acted by them two. Um, and Lily James, who played the wife of Kevin Von Erich, she did a good job as well. And to me, like I said, Peter was with me, and she went from, let's see, when her character first got introduced, uh, she kind of like looked at me and it's like, I don't like her. Then by the end of the movie, she liked him because he was with she was with Kevin during that those hard times, and instead of it's almost like her character went from looking at him like a local rock star or the rock star wrestler or whatever to when he revealed about what happened to his older brother Jack, who of course when he was 7, 8 years old, got accidentally electrocuted. That was actually the first Von Erich brother who died. Then he became obviously the big brother. Um, when he revealed to her about that, what the? I hope that didn't ring. Sorry about that, folks. Uh, anyway, when he revealed to her about that, I think that's when the gears shifted. She didn't look at him as the rock star wrestler. She looked at him more as a human being now. Another good positive thing is just the sets, the lights, everything looked 1980s wrestling. Uh, Probably not 100% like it, but you can tell the effort was there. They did a very good job with cinematography. Um, Even the outside, they made the outside look like the sportatorium, the building they was wrestling at. They did make it, at least the front of it look like the old sportatorium. Um, and like I said, the costume design did the best they could to make it look like 1980s wrestling. The lighting, the hairstyles, uh, of course, the music, the soundtrack. Using Tom Sawyer, that was pretty cool. Tom Sawyer by Rush, what was of course Kerry Von Erich's ring entrance music. I did not remember hearing Stranglehold by Ted Nugent. I guess they couldn't get those rights or didn't ask him. Um, and there's a, I think wrestling fans would. There was a scene in there that didn't last long, but sometimes a little bit can tell a lot. If you did follow the Von Erich family history and of course into wrestling and stuff like that, um, David passed away. Mike got a shoulder injury. They needed another Von Erich. They didn't have no more Von Erichs, of course. They brought in Lance Von Erich, which was really Ricky Vaughn, who wrestled out of Portland, Oregon at the time. Of course, they brought him in as a cousin. They said he was the son of Waldo Von Erich. Of course, no, it was true, but there was a scene where Lance Von Erich, that was played by executive producer, sorry, I didn't forgot to give him credit, MJF, Maxwell Jacob Freeman, the now former AEW World Champion. He was played by him, but they, didn't really give him any speaking roles. But there was like this little scene where he was in the ring, or Max playing, Lance Von Erich, and Kevin was sitting there in the corner, and he looked very uncomfortable about it. And if you've seen any shoot interviews or documentaries where Kevin spoke about it, he was not totally for it. I think none of the boys were really for it, but um, I just rewatched one of the documentaries, and Kevin said, "Hey, when Fritz brought this out, Fritz said, hey, majority rules, and Fritz was the majority. He got in there, but uh, I think it left a bad taste in all the fans' mouth, and then the, of course, I've documented for when I talked about world class. There was a falling out. Lance left. They buried him, calling him a phony and stuff like that, which, like I said, left a lot of bad taste in the mouth. But that short scene showing it as uh, Zac Efron, looking uncomfortable and all this stuff, that told more of the story than any kind of speaking lines, in my opinion. Especially if you're a wrestling fan and remember the story about this and Kevin being uncomfortable. So sometimes a little bit could tell a lot. But yeah, that was a few of the good points I would point at the movie. Now let's look at the bad. Oops. Now I will talk about the bad parts of this movie, and of course, one of the major bad parts of it was this bad Ric Flair imitation. Uh, I seen it. It was very cringe. Wasn't even a good impression. I was almost sitting there thinking, it's like, dang, could they just uh, had Jay Lethal kind of uh, play Ric Flair, or at least do the voice of Ric Flair and have this guy, move his mouth, lip sync to what Jay Lethal was saying? Because even Ric Flair said, "Hey, Jay Lethal does Ric Flair better than I do Ric Flair." Um, but they got this guy. You know, I think the budget of the movie was only for 15 million, I guess, so they couldn't really get somebody in there to play a good Ric Flair. But this guy was not a good Ric Flair. I will also say the guy playing Harley Race didn't look like a good Harley Race, didn't sound like a good Harley Race. Almost just phoned it in at that point. Um, but yeah, that was kind of bad. Uh, Obviously, also one of the things I kind of kept laughing about the movie was how Zac Efron was jacked. He did look like his body looked like more like Kerry Von Erich, and than he did Kevin Von Erich. The guy that played Kerry was shorter and smaller than Zac Efron, and anybody who knows things at that time, um, they knew that Kerry was a bigger one. Kevin was had a athletic build. Obviously, look at that picture right there. Uh, but Kerry was a bit taller. Was a, as far as built wise, the bigger brother. Um, and of course, they kind of kind of made it sound like that Mike was about as tall as David was, and if you look at that picture right there, I mean they're side by side right there, and he was probably about as tall as Kevin, but uh, definitely the smaller, skinnier one. But David was freaking tall. I forgot his 6'7" maybe, uh, if that, maybe a little taller, give or take 6'7". But um, yeah, I mean he was a standout basketball player. He was a great athlete in his amateur life. Of course, Kerry, he was discus thrower. He was going to go to the Olympics. They did document that a little bit. How the year 1980 when he was going to go to the Olympics, America boycotted the Olympics that year. Um, was it 1980 or could have been 76? Sorry, I get my dates wrong sometimes. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Please leave a comment on the right year. I just know, yeah, Jimmy Carter was president. They did show actual footage. So yeah, the kind of the builds and stuff like that was kind of it's been a little picky, I guess, um, but like I said, Kerry was a bigger one. Kevin was the most athletic one. Uh, David had it all. He can talk, tall, big, uh, not muscular big, but big enough. Of course, Mike, they did kind of did pretty good. That Mike probably did not want to be a wrestler, uh, but he did wind up getting into it. Of course, they document the shoulder injury and all that, which brings me to another thing. Again, I understand it's a movie, not a documentary, but they made it play like when Kerry won the NWA World Championship. That's when he got in a motorcycle wreck and lost his foot, which was Then after that, that's when Mike Von Erich injured his shoulder, had the toxic shock syndrome. Actually, it's reverse of that. Mike had his shoulder injury and a toxic shock syndrome in '85. Uh, Kerry had his accident in '86, June of '86. Um, so that little timeline difference was a little backwards, but I kind of understand that that was probably a little more interesting part about it than some things. And they also left out Chris Von Erich, which again I could kind of sort of understand. Um, you know, what are you gonna show Chris doing? Will be just running around as a kid and him trying to be a wrestler and breaking his arm, doing a drop kick, which they kind of already did that with uh, Mike Von Erich, which I'm not sure how he injured his shoulder, but Chris Von Erich, he was born with some health issues. One of those being asthma, uh, and of course he was having to take prednisone. Did I pronounce that right? For it, and unfortunately that would stunt his growth and make his bones brittle. But he wanted to be he him more than Mike wanted to be a professional wrestler. But you know he did slip into depression after Mike committed suicide, and he had some drug issues of his own, and of course, not being able to cut it as a professional wrestler like he really wanted to. And unfortunately, yes, he was the other brother who committed. He passed away in '91 uh, due to suicide. Um, Carrie would commit suicide in '93, almost a year later, uh, or almost 2 years later, excuse me. But so yeah, uh, let's go ahead and remember Mike. But I understand why they didn't. I guess they really want to focus on the brothers wrestling and stuff like that and whatnot. Let's see, my final verdict on this movie. Yes, I think it is a very well done movie, and I would definitely recommend it to someone who even is not a wrestling fan. Kind of like with the wrestler with Mickey Rourke, um, about how you can put anybody or you can put Mickey Rourke's character in any kind of entertainment or whether it be music or sports or movies, whatever. He peaked, then he fell down, and the problems that kind of come with that. Uh, the thing was, the wrestler, is was focused on a professional wrestler. Um, but like I say, you could put Mickey Rourke's character in any different forms of entertainment. It would You could tell the same story, so it can be relatable. This right here, it this is a true story about uh, you know brothers who are just so happen to be professional wrestlers who had a lot of heartache, and it can be relatable even if, like, say, you know somebody's dad or mom owned a factory, all the brothers came in and worked in that factory, had some success. Then that success, came crashing down with a few accidents and uh, a few tragedies. It just so happens these brothers were professional wrestlers. Their dad owned the company and was a professional wrestler at one time. So yeah, definitely could be relatable. So yeah, would recommend this for somebody who even isn't a wrestling fan. Um, so I definitely it's I do really need to think about as far as countdown the best wrestling movies. Uh, I almost want to say this is probably number one, and the wrestler being number two, because that's kind of way I would judge it movie sometimes is how much I would recommend it to somebody who's not a fan. But yeah, I think this movie is pretty good. Anyway, that does for me for my Iron Claw movie review. Hope you folks enjoyed it. Like I said, leave a comment. Tell me what you thought of the movie, if you did go out and see it, or your memories of world class championship wrestling and the Von Erichs. Also, slap that like button and be a champ and hit that subscribe button. Until then, hope everybody had a great New Year's. Have a good one, and see you later. Thank you for checking out my video. I really do appreciate it. And of course, this is the part where I ask you, if you're not a subscriber yet, to click on that subscribe button, leave a like, also share with friends. And if you want to follow me on social media, on Twitter, X, it's at RRPATRPTV46. On Facebook, it's this Ronald Ray. And yes, I need to turn in my man card because I do have a TikTok. You can find me on TikTok at RP2Vision. As always, you have a good one and take it easy.